What's up again, everybody? It's Pat Voss, host of the Golden Sports Show, normally every Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on IMS campus in Lombard. That is the Illinois Media School, the Lombard campus, and, of course, SportstownChicago.com. I have a great interview guest with me today, another great podcast here for you. We've got a few rolling out throughout the weeks, but I am very, very excited for this gentleman to be joining. He's a freelance broadcaster. He does sports director. He does a whole bunch of things. Definitely a jack of all trades. It's Fago Franklin. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, buddy? How about yourself?
Good. Very, very good. I'm glad that you were on the show today. I'm glad that you can stop by, obviously. I have fun every time I'm talking to yourself and a few people within our circle here as far as the broadcaster circle. I really, really enjoy conversation with.
Oh, thank you, man. I definitely appreciate you having me on the show.
So for everybody out there, obviously, that I feel like I'm doing one of my old episodes, the Late Night Mix-Up, back 4.5, 5 years ago. When I say this, it just kind of gives me a nice warm feeling to ask. For those of you out there in my land, in my podcast land, that do not know who Fago is, Fago, what is it that you do?
I'm actually a sports reporter, sports director. I actually am a sports publicist as well. So I'll take you a little bit on my journey. So I've been in the field for 7 years. I graduated with my degree in mass communications. I started off as being a content writer with Inland CrossFit Trust. Branded out a little bit into with Fox Sports, 1340 AM, the Times Magazine, and worked my way up. Now I'm trying to establish my own publication as well as my sports and entertainment agency. So I have covered numerous things. I covered the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I have covered 3 Super Bowls. I have covered NFL Draft. I'm just a jack of all trades.
So when you say, obviously covering the White House Correspondents' Dinner, that's a huge event. Not only obviously the Super Bowl for sports fans, that's a huge event too, but for people that don't understand, what does that take to get inside and cover the White House Correspondents' Dinner?
Oh, man, it takes a lot of grit, takes a lot of devotion. You have to be devoted to your craft, and you can't stop when you get rejected. You always have to have a go-getter mentality, and just keep contacting them. Every time you get a no, just keep contacting them, and eventually they're going to tell you yes because they keep seeing your name. And it's like, oh, I can't keep telling this person no. He seems like he's legit. He seems devoted, and he's committed to his craft. So we're going to give him a shot. And I was very fortunate to have that opportunity to cover President Obama's last Correspondents' Dinner.
Dang. And that was with his anger translator, right?
Yes.
Oh, my God. What did you do after that? Were you writing an article about it? Can we find that?
That was years and years ago. That was in 2016. But, of course, you see a whole bunch of clips. I have clips with Tracy Ellis Ross, Kerry Washington, Morgan Freeman, those type of individuals. At that time, I was transitioning over from a photographer into more so the sports reporter aspect.
So from that, though, obviously covering a big event like that, to me, it would seem like you would, I don't know. You would want to go bigger, right? At least in the sports broadcasting aspect. Now, past that, how many Super Bowls have you covered again?
I have covered 3.
3. Which
Yes,
Super Bowls have you covered?
Super Bowl 52, 53, and 54.
And what was that experience like? Can we say, you know what, before I go too far down the rabbit hole on that, your very first Super Bowl being covered, Super Bowl 52, what was that like, not only getting in the door to do so, but also when you step into the arena and you're getting ready to be part of the media team? Walk us through that mental state going in.
First and foremost, a lot of people don't know this unless you are actually friends on my Facebook or my social media handles. I'm a diehard Eagles fan. So when I tell you it was just one of the best memories ever I could ever have in this sporting field, besides standing beside Kobe Bryant, which is my basketball idol. But it was just an amazing feeling. I was just so nervous. It was like my first Super Bowl I was reporting. And then also not just being a reporter, but also having watching my team at a Super Bowl and win their Super Bowl. It was just an amazing feeling. Being in the sports media field, covering The Super Bowl throughout the entire week was just amazing. It's a lot of traffic. You have to have that go-getter mentality. Nobody's going to hold your hand. And you're with the best of the best. Everybody that you see on television and you see on podcasts and different things of that nature, they're all there. And so, sometimes you can go over there and converse with them a little bit because we're all in the same arena. So at first it was like I was a little bit nervous, to be honest. But then eventually I got back into my zone where I was comfortable, and I'm an extrovert. So it's only going to take a matter of time before I just go up to a random person, hey, how you doing? And spark up a conversation. And then within that conversation, I ask them like little tips here and there. But go back to the initial question, it was just an amazing feeling.
So with that, with that initial experience, you're rubbing shoulders with basically everybody, everybody that's there. What is it like, was there ever a moment, and I know I experienced this during NBA All-Star Weekend this past year in Chicago. I was not only by the UC, but I covered the main event, the crossover event at Navy Pier for, 4 days? Or 3 days, rather. I wondered, what was it like? Did you ever stop and think, holy crap, I'm doing this? Like, I know that I'm trying to prepare myself for this as a broadcaster, as some part of the media, but did you ever take a second and take a breath? Was it afterwards? Was it before? Was it during? When did you hit that point of, holy crap, I'm here?
When the Eagles won the Super Bowl. When it was because, like, normally I do not like looking at the past, because the past is a reflection of what I used to be and how I overcame a lot of obstacles in my lifetime. And sometimes it's just like, it's an improvement on your life and your craft. So when I finally, because my goal was to hit Super Bowl in 5 years, I ended up hitting it up on my 6th year. And it was just an amazing feeling. But I sat there when they actually said the Philadelphia Eagles are the Super Bowl champs, for 2 minutes, I could not stop crying. I could not stop crying because nobody understands the emotion I was feeling. It was just a lot I was going through, and just to finally sit there and say, hey, I did it. I defined so many obstacles that was in my life. I don't really have a positive support system, but to actually define all the odds and to be at the first Super Bowl, watching my Eagles win a Super Bowl was just an amazing feeling. So I just sat there and cried, and that's when it really hit me, like, I'm here. I'm here. I'm a reliable source.
And that, to me, makes all the difference. And that's something, obviously, for myself in the broadcasting field or anybody else in the broadcasting field, I hope they reach that moment that you reached. I hope they hit that moment where it's I'm finally here. That, to me, makes all the difference. All the difference. And for me, I think it was, if I could be afforded a minute of our listeners' time, NBA All-Star Weekend, I was, not covering the full event at the UC, which I would have loved to have done, but they had limited number over there. But they did allow me to go in and cover the crossover event at Navy Pier right down the way. And I feel that going there and then meeting some of these media personalities and meeting like Taco Fall and, meeting some of these celebrities that were around there at the time, I found that very interesting that I was getting to say hi even though I was interviewing some of them, even though I was taking pictures of the events and covering the event for the radio station I was working for at the time. I feel that for you and I, that's one moment, like you were saying, you were crying uncontrollably for like 2 minutes because you were so happy about where you're at now. And I think that's something, and I didn't cry at the time, but I'm sure thinking back on it, I'm sure that maybe if I had a chance to do it again, that was just such a shock to be around so many people that you look up to or you would have loved to interview. You thought it was a bucket list item, and all of a sudden you're standing next to them. What is your main goal? Obviously, you've covered White House Correspondents' Dinner. You've covered Super Bowls. What are you looking to do? Are you trying to cover World Series? How far does Fago go?
I'm trying to take over the world, to be honest. To go back to your question, I'll say I would love to cover the Olympics.
Okay.
And then I'm trying to transition over into like covering like the Met Gala, Oscars, Golden Globes. I'm trying to transition over from just sports because I felt like I have defined everything and I have made it to the top with sports. And I'm never leaving sports.
I'm sorry. I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe you said what you just said, because this actually may lead to something here, not for myself right this second, but for you. One of my good friends in Tokyo covers the Olympics. She was originally trying to get me to go out there this year for the Tokyo Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, since you have more credibility as far as credentials and things like that, I'm wondering if I hooked you up with my friend. I'm wondering very much so if next year when they do the Olympics, I'm wondering if you might be able to go out there and cover it by next year.
Hey, anything can happen. So, like, you could definitely connect me with her, and we can go from there.
Absolutely. I will connect you with, and her name is Candy, by the way. She is a good friend of mine, has been for years, and she's a photographer. Now, she photographs baseball teams in Japan. She takes a lot of different main events, social events, and, of course, the Olympics she was tagged on to do, and she is still tagged, but it's for next year, obviously, because they moved it back. And I figure if I'll link you two up, I'm pretty sure you should be able to find yourself in Tokyo next year. That would be nice to see you there. Yes,
sir. I definitely appreciate for that connection.
Sorry, I couldn't believe that was one of the first thing you named. Like, I'm thinking, wait, I could do something about this. Another thing, taking over the world, that mindset, that's something I noticed you said. That mindset is something that I'm trying to hold dear to as well, and that is that killer mentality to go after what you want and make it a reality. Can you get it from here to here? And what is it that made you what is it, if you don't mind me asking, what pushed you to get from where it's in your head to obviously out in front of you and in real life events happening?
Man, that's a great question. I'll say my faith in the Lord. And not to get too religious, but faith was everything to me. Growing up, I grew up in a religious family. I kind of brushed away from, the good Lord, but ultimately it came down to Him. There was a moment in time when I was 21 years old. I was in a coma, and God literally spoke to me. He literally told me that He was going to turn my life into a testimony. And so I ended up going back to school because at that time, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I couldn't find out who Fago was. I found out who Fago was when I was 27 years old. So, I was going to a lot of these different events, and I'm like trying to figure my life around. And then all of a sudden, it's just like in 2013 when I was with Pro Players Insiders, I actually got to cover like the Keith Urban concert when the Baltimore Ravens went off to Denver for their first game of the season. They had just came back and won the Super Bowl in 2013. And so they actually threw like a free concert, and Keith Urban was there. So Keith Urban, like I'm in the backstage with Keith Urban. I'm like, what the world? I'm seeing like Michael Irvin and everybody. It got my heart racing because these are the people I look up to. And I've been watching sports for a very long time. And, from the sports aspect of being in this field, it's just like something that I love. I'm very passionate about sports. And to take it back to my childhood, I was playing sports since I was 6 years old. I picked up a basketball because of Kobe Bryant. I always wanted to idolize. I idolized Kobe Bryant, and I always looked up to him outside of not just basketball, but outside of what he had to deal with in his life. And he overcame so much adversity. And then also, even though me and my family are not really tight, I look up to my father. My father, he went from being a retired military personnel to actually building his own business. So he built his business up. He's a locksmith. Been in the business for, I'm 31 years old, 31. He built his business up and his business been established 31 years ago. So anywho, built it up, very phenomenal, very successful. And he always had that drive to go after something that he loved. And I tell people all the time, don't chase the money, chase your passion. If you have passion and purpose, ultimately it comes together, and that's when that money will start trickling in, because you're not doing it for the money, you're doing it for the love.
Absolutely. And for you, I think you say about being in a coma and saying, hey, listen, how is my life going to change now? And the fact that it has changed as much as it has, and you're only like a year and a half older than me, and you've covered 3 Super Bowls and the White House Correspondents Center. So I can't wait. By the time, hopefully, in a couple of years of working hard at what I'm doing, I'm hoping by the time I turn 35, I'm covering something nearly that good. I will say, though, I mean, as far as covering events, have you covered NFL drafts?
Yes, I covered ironically, I didn't think the Eagles was going to ever win a Super Bowl. So when it was in Philadelphia, that was my Super Bowl. Not realizing that we was going to actually win that Super Bowl that year, the 2017, 2018 year. So it was crazy because that was my first coverage of the NFL draft in Philadelphia. Then when we won in Minnesota, I actually can brag because I ended up going to the NFL draft in Dallas. So I was bragging to all the Cowboys fans that finally we have a ring, because, it's a rivalry between Cowboy fans and Eagles fans.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a blessing that I could, cover my second NFL draft in Dallas as well. So I could have bragging rights now.
Well, that's very cool. I mean, that's something that I hope everybody gets to experience. But obviously, as we know, with COVID-19 swarming around and us still at stay-at-home orders in most states, that you have the NFL draft coming up, but it's also seeming to be, from like Roger Goodell's basement, and that probably looks like most of our houses. And you have this privilege, I guess, as being media, of watching an NFL draft now. And are you going to be reporting on this NFL draft, even though there's no live people there, there's not going to be in a venue, it's mostly at home?
Oh, yes. I'm going to keep everybody informed on my social media platforms. So if you want to see like the inside scoops or anything, you can follow me on Fago Franklin III at my Facebook, or either my Instagram, Superjournalist87, or either my Twitter, Superjournal11 on Twitter. But I will keep everybody updated. That's one of the things. I mean, hell, we have, WNBA draft as well as the NFL draft. So there's some type of sporting news. So, I want to get it out to all the audience, because most of my audience are sports fanatics. So, like, it's going to be pretty weird. This draft is weird in a way because, like, as I told somebody, I feel like that the draftees should have, like, some type of celebration after this coronavirus is controlled. Have, like, a little parade or something like that, because these guys deserved it.
Well, absolutely. And I think that with covering it, and by the way, for anybody who's watching this video, if you're watching on YouTube, my links to my social media and Fago's links are all going to be in the description. Facebook, I will be tagging Fago on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and then LinkedIn. Obviously, if you're watching on LinkedIn, thank you for watching and hire me. I would say, and I'll make sure that I'll get your link from you. Just message me after the interview, and we'll get them done. I'll get them all set up for you in the description and on YouTube. What I would say is, with NFL draft still happening, is it something that we're thinking about? Is there a very good possibility in your mind that the NFL season will start late? Does it start on time for you? Are they going the route of UFC where they're going to try to do events and then all of a sudden it gets canceled at the last second? What do you think is coming?
Oh man, it's just a back and forth thing, to be honest. It's pretty exhausting, because you have some places like in New Orleans, they shut everything down. So there's no sports going on in New Orleans until 2021. So everybody's going to have to look at certain states and figure out how we're going to actually have a season played out. Here we got we have our stuff extended a little bit until like the end of May, I think, and I live in Seattle. So it's going to be pretty interesting. I personally don't see the season starting up no time soon, because the coronavirus is not controlled right now.
Right.
And for fans, to actually, no, you're good. For fans to actually be comfortable, as well as media outlets, that virus has to be controlled, period, point blank. So
Absolutely.
I would say possibly, whew, I want to say it might be a season, but you just never know because everything is getting canceled. And, with the social distancing, they're talking about if they don't find a vaccine, we could be within the guidelines until 2022. So we just don't know. It's just unorthodox right now. It's a weird year. So I want to say that there's going to be some football, but it's looking like 75% saying no, there's not going to be no NFL.
Well, and with the NFL, obviously, maybe not even having their season. I mean, you have to look at other things like, MLB, NBA, all these things not happening. But at the same time, with the XFL, a direct competitor, I guess, to the NFL, and I have to call it a direct competitor because obviously, even though they're not on at the same time, it is still a national football league, so to speak. So with the XFL seemingly folding and filing for bankruptcy because of COVID-19, is this the end of the XFL? Does Vince McMahon revive it for a third time? Do you think this is kind of the last nail in the coffin, or what's happening next?
For right now, all I see is that they're done with the XFL, and it's really sad because you saw a lot of prospects in the XFL. A couple guys actually got drafted to the NFL, which was definitely nice to see. And I thought that the XFL at least was going to stay for 5 more years because they actually had a huge fan base, especially in Seattle and Houston. Houston was racking in the average of 20,000 fans. So it was nice to look at, and it was definitely a promising league. But I think Vince McMahon is saying, no, we're done now. So it's sad to say, but I think the XFL is scratched.
Okay, what about the MLB? This is one of the last things I wanted to touch on for sure is the MLB because that's my favorite, top of the line, favorite sport. I have to go with baseball. Major League Baseball obviously was supposed to start in April. Actually, even March, late March, it was supposed to start. And, of course, that's only about a week and a half after coronavirus really hit here in the U.S. and we started doing the stay-at-home orders. Now here we are in late April or in mid-April. And it looks like the season may not go, if it even starts, may not start until June. Do you think they scrap the MLB season like you're saying in New Orleans, how they're saying all sports are done until 2021 and there's other, stay-at-home orders that are being extended now at some states? What do we see as far as MLB season? Is there any hope alive?
There's some hope because there's going to be some hope, but it's going to probably be played without fans, which is boring because it's like fans make up sports. And so right now, the MLB commissioner has already stated that he's not really worried about the season right now. He just wants fans as well as players to be comfortable. So we could possibly see a season, but it's going to be a shortened season. They were talking about that it might be played in Arizona. And then they were talking about it was going to be a fluctuation between Arizona and then Miami. So we just don't know, but with the commissioner coming out saying, because initially it was supposed to be in May, but they have scratched everything out. And then there's like 10,000 employees that were talking about doing a trial for the coronavirus. There's a trial to see if they actually have it, and they're doing studies on, 10,000 people. And so that's going to be a little bit hold up as well too, but I'm guessing that's going to be like a projection. Like we can actually play while there is a virus still out there. So I will say that we could possibly see the MLB season starting in possibly late August, going into September, but we just don't know.
And now I have to ask the question, the obligatory question about the coronavirus. What do you feel about the people that are saying this isn't as bad as we think it is? So many more people die every year from X, Y, and Z, and they try to put out these stats on Facebook. What is it that you would like to say to those people that maybe are ignoring the stay-at-home order or trying to while we're trying to get this stuff together?
I'll say listen to your governors. Look at news. I don't care whatever news station that you find credible. Just pay attention to news. And please listen to people, because the longer that you prohibit all this different things, we can't live. I'm trying to have a summer. We don't want to stay at home all day because it's driving us nuts. And if we could actually pay attention and do what the governors as well as the president is saying at this current in time, we can actually move forward. And within that, when they see the coronavirus cases dropping, they're gonna let up on the restrictions. So then we can actually have our summers. But for right now, you have to take this as serious. People are dying left and right, and you have to look at hotspots such as Washington State, New York, LA, New Orleans. If the mayor of New Orleans is telling people that they're shutting down sports and festivals until 2021, that means it's serious.
Well, yeah, and it's very serious. It needs to be taken seriously. And again, I wanted to thank you, one, for joining the show, but two, for spreading some information out there, whether it's about sports, broadcasting, how to keep up, and definitely stay at home or listen to your governors about COVID-19, because like you said, and I feel the same, I think that I want a summer too. I want a summer too. I want sports to do. I run a weekly sports show along with these podcast interviews, and I need content, people. So please stay at home. I need content.
Same here. And like I tell people all the time, the sooner we can actually pay attention and stay in our houses and the virus can get contained, the sooner we can actually have a summer and actually enjoy life at its normal rate. But right now, everything's not normal. So just pay attention to the news at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And Fago, thank you so much for joining the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. Hopefully next time I get on the show, we can talk about the NFL draft and talk about, all these different prospects, my friend.
Oh, absolutely. I will have that in-depth review with you, definitely. So we will have that soon. Another thing I wanted to say is, obviously, like I said, you can find Fago's social media links down below in the YouTube comments, the YouTube description. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, you will just see me tagging Fago. I'll make sure that I tag him in everything as well. It will link back, and I hope that this interview does very, very well in the sports and broadcasting community, because this is what we need to be doing right now. You have to stay at home. Well, you have to also keep busy. If you're in our field, you have to find ways to think outside of the box, and this is one of them. It is Stay at Home Golden Sports Show, and I'm your host, Pat Voss, of course, at Patrick M. Voss on all social media. I'll see you guys tomorrow.